They say motherhood is the most natural thing in the world, like it should come easy, like it should feel like breathing. But nobody tells you what to do when it doesn't. When you're trying your best and still being told it's not enough. When the people who are supposed to stand beside you decide to stand behind your back, whispering, planning, replacing you while you're still in the room. My name is Madeline Walsh. I'm 34 years old, and up until last year, I was a full-time mother to a bright-eyed little boy named Liam. He's 6 now, the kind of kid who gives you gummy bear hugs and asks deep questions about the stars. I used to believe he was my entire world. I used to believe I was his too. And then, one morning, I came downstairs and found a stranger pouring juice in my kitchen. She was tall, polished, not a hair out of place, wearing a beige cashmere sweater, and the kind of smile that made you feel like you were already behind. She looked up from the fridge, smiled at me and said, "You must be Madeline. I've heard so much about you." I blinked, confused. "I'm sorry. Who are you?" She laughed like it was funny. "I'm Georgia. I'm the nanny." The nanny. No one had told me. Not my husband. Not my in-laws. Not even my own mother, who was always on speakerphone with someone in the family. The decision had been made without me, and clearly without my consent. I turned to my husband, Jason, who had just walked in behind her, holding Liam's backpack like nothing was wrong. "She's here to help," he said. "You've been overwhelmed, Mads. You said it yourself." We thought it was time to bring in a professional. I just stared at him, my jaw clenched so tight I could feel it tremble. "We? Me and Mom," he said, almost sheepish. "She recommended the agency. Of course she did. Jason's mother never liked me, said I was too quiet, too soft-spoken, too artistic. She once called me delicate, like I was a chipped teacup." I looked at Georgia again. She was already unpacking Liam's lunchbox, like she'd lived here forever. "I don't need help," I said. Jason's voice lowered. "Yes, Mads, you do." That was the first crack. The thing about cracks is, they don't make a sound right away, but over time they spread, quiet, invisible, until the whole thing starts falling apart. It wasn't just the nanny. It was how everything changed after her. Georgia became the favorite within days. Liam adored her. She had flashcards, games, fancy snacks, and more patience than I'd seen in my entire bloodline. She got him to brush his teeth without a meltdown, convinced him to eat peas, read him bedtime stories with different voices for every character. She was good, too good, Jason noticed. "She's great, right?" he'd say after work. "Liam's doing better at school already. Less tantrum." I wanted to scream. "You mean fewer tantrums because I'm not around?" But instead I smiled, nodded, bit my tongue so hard it left marks. I tried to adjust. I told myself this was temporary. Maybe I really had seemed overwhelmed. I was still getting used to not working, still trying to juggle motherhood with my own goals. I'd given up my part-time art teaching job to stay home with Liam. And now, here I was, a guest in my own motherhood. Some days, I would enter a room and Georgia would be there, laughing with Liam, both of them unaware that I existed. I became the background noise, the one who washed the clothes but didn't get the hugs, the one who packed the lunches that Georgia took credit for. It started to get under my skin. Worse still was the way Jason began to treat me, like I was made of eggshells. Every conversation turned into him reminding me that I was sensitive, taking things the wrong way, or my favorite, being dramatic. When I finally said I wanted Georgia gone, he looked at me like I was being selfish. "She's here for Liam," he said flatly. "And it's not fair to take that away just because you feel insecure." That word insecure, it stuck to me, like glue. It made everything I felt seem invalid, like I wasn't allowed to be upset. Not if someone else had decided I was wrong for feeling it. The final blow came on a Thursday morning. Liam had a small art show at his school. Nothing big, just some of their paintings hung up in the hallway for parents to see. I had spent the morning getting ready, picking out a nice dress, curling my hair, hoping to be the mom Liam would be proud to point to. When I got to the school, they were already there. Jason stood with his arm around Georgia. Liam stood between them, holding both their hands. I walked up, waving. Liam looked at me, then turned back to Georgia. Jason barely glanced my way. "Oh, you made it," he said. "Georgia got off early so she could come." "Of course I made it," I snapped. "I'm his mother." Jason flinched. "Don't make a scene." I watched them from a corner as Georgia knelt to Liam's level, pointing out his artwork and telling him how proud she was. That was when I realized something awful. I had been replaced. Not just helped, not supported, replaced. I went home alone. Jason stayed with Georgia and Liam to grab lunch. I sat in the living room and cried. Not just little tears. I mean full, shaking sobs that left me gasping. I wasn't crying because of Georgia. I was crying because I had been erased, as if everything I had given, the nights without sleep, the lullabies, the finger-painted messes, the scraped knees, the fear, the love, none of it mattered. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up at the kitchen table, scrolling through job listings I hadn't looked at in years. I clicked on one for an office receptionist, then another for a part-time art instructor, and then I saw it. A nanny agency was hiring. Not for nannies, for management, office roles, operations assistant, communications, scheduling. I clicked without thinking, read every word, and I applied. Something in me lit up, a part of me that had been asleep for years. The capable, determined woman I had pushed to the side the day I agreed to be a full-time mom without any support. She was waking up now, and she was angry. 2 weeks later, I got a call. "Hi, is this Madeline Walsh?" "Yes. This is Jessica from Clearness Nanny Services. We reviewed your resume and would love to schedule an interview." I stared at the wall. Clearnest. That was the agency. The one Georgia had come from. The one Jason's mother had raved about. The one that had sent someone into my home without ever speaking to me first. I didn't tell them that. I simply smiled and said, "I'd love to." There's a strange kind of power in walking into a place that changed your life and pretending like it didn't. The Clearness Nanny Services building was located in a beige office park, about 20 minutes outside of town. It didn't look like much from the outside. Glass windows, an automatic door that squeaked a little too loud, and a tiny lobby with worn-out chairs and a stack of outdated parenting magazines. I sat with my hands folded in my lap, trying to stop them from shaking. A receptionist, bright blonde curls and a headset too big for her head, glanced up at me. "Are you here for the intake or the admin interview?" "Admin?" I said. She smiled. "Jessica will be right with you." Jessica came out 5 minutes later. Mid-40s, confident, business casual in a tailored blazer and skinny black pants. She had the kind of presence that made you sit up straighter without realizing it. "Madeline. Hi, I'm Jessica. Thanks for coming in." We shook hands, and I followed her to a small office filled with colorful childcare posters and a calendar that looked like it had been attacked by a dozen highlighters. The interview wasn't easy. I was rusty. It had been years since I'd been on the other side of a death, but I told the truth, that I had years of hands-on parenting experience, that I understood scheduling chaos, child behavior, emergency contacts, all of it. I talked about conflict resolution, organizing activities, communicating with parents who were stressed or burned out. I mentioned my art background and my previous admin role at a school. Jessica nodded along, occasionally smiling. "You seem to really get parents," she said at one point. I looked her right in the eye. "I am one." I didn't expect to hear back so soon. 2 days later, I got the call. They wanted me to join the admin team part-time, helping schedule and match nannies with families. I could have screamed. I didn't, of course. I just thanked Jessica, accepted the offer, and ended the call with shaking hands. I was officially on the inside. The job itself was chaos wrapped in polite emails, parents calling in desperate for last-minute coverage, nannies canceling with zero notice, shifting availabilities, tantrums in the background of every phone call, but I liked it because for the first time in months, I wasn't invisible. I mattered. My opinions were respected. My instincts were trusted. And even though I was only part-time, Jessica quickly noticed I had a good eye for details. "You think like a parent," she said one afternoon. "That's hard to train." By the third week, she was asking for my input on tricky placements. By the sixth, she had me reviewing new applicant files. And that's when I saw her name again. Georgia Lane. Her profile popped up in the Nanny management system when I was scanning upcoming rotation shifts. I clicked on it without thinking. There it was. Her photo, smiling, confident, same flawless hair, 5-star ratings from families, glowing reviews. But the agency notes told a slightly different story. 2 recent complaints, 1 warning issued for being overly familiar with a client's spouse. My stomach turned. I printed the file and slid it into a folder. I didn't know why. Not yet. I wasn't ready for revenge. But I was ready for the truth. Meanwhile, things at home were unraveling. Jason and I barely spoke. He didn't ask about my new job, didn't notice when I started getting up early, putting on real clothes, and leaving the house with purpose. He was too wrapped up in his world, too confident in George's abilities. One night, Liam fell and scraped his chin in the backyard. I came running from my car, saw the blood on his shirt, and instinctively scooped him into my arms. Georgia tried to take him from me. "I've got him," she said, reaching out. Liam clung to my neck like he hadn't done in months. "No, I want Mommy." And in that 1 second, that one clinging grip, I felt something flicker back to life. Jason stood frozen on the porch, watching us both. He didn't say a word, but his eyes weren't as sure anymore. At work, I started paying closer attention to the agency. Clearness wasn't just a nanny service. It was a power broker. These families weren't hiring help, they were outsourcing motherhood, delegating bonding, replacing love with performance metrics. But I also saw something else. A pattern. Some of the best, most nurturing women on our roster were being overlooked because they didn't have perfect resumes. Older women, single moms, immigrant caregivers with accents, people with warmth and real skill but not enough polish. They were getting passed over for younger, brandable types like Georgia. I began to wonder, what if there was another way? That seed grew quietly in the back of my mind. Every day I learned something new. How placements were made, which families paid the most, which agencies had silent contracts with rich suburbs, what keywords made resumes stand out, what kind of training was respected, how loyalty meant nothing when money talked. I kept my head down, played nice, and took notes. Meanwhile, Georgia was slipping. One of the complaints turned into a formal review. Jessica asked me to help smooth it over with the client, since I had the best communication skills. The irony almost made me laugh. I was protecting the woman who had replaced me, while secretly building the foundation to replace her entire industry. One night, I stayed late at the office. Jessica had gone home. The lights were dim. I opened a blank spreadsheet and typed 2 words into the header: Mother House. It was a name I'd come up with weeks ago, while folding laundry. A vision of what a real childcare agency could be. One that hired nannies who were mothers themselves, who understood kids on a soul-deep level. One that supported caregivers, didn't just market them. One that lifted women up, instead of slotting them into someone else's life. I didn't know how or when. I didn't even know where I'd get the money. But I knew this. They might have replaced me in my home, but I was going to replace them in their industry. The first time I spoke the name Mother House out loud, I was whispering into the dark, sitting cross-legged on my bedroom floor, while Liam slept down the hall. It sounded like a prayer, like something sacred. Mother House, I said again. A place where moms like me, women who had been pushed aside, overlooked, underestimated, could find real work, real purpose. Not just background roles in someone else's family, but careers built on the love and labor we already gave away for free. I didn't know the first thing about starting a business, but I knew what it felt like to be replaced in your own home. And that was enough. At Clear Nest, I kept my smile on. Jessica still relied on me more than ever. I helped rework their scheduling system, updated nanny bios, and managed family communication when issues popped up. I was good at fixing chaos, and the more useful I became, the less anyone looked too closely at what I was doing after hours. I stayed late almost every evening, sometimes pretending to clean up, sometimes actually working, but always for me. I made spreadsheets of the best nannies I'd worked with, the ones who went unnoticed because they didn't look like Instagram influencers. I started a secret file with their phone numbers and email. Quiet conversations during coffee breaks turned into trust. I'd say things like, "Ever think of working for yourself?" And their eyes would light up. One woman, Carmen, a 48-year-old single mother with 3 grown kids and the softest voice I'd ever heard, squeezed my arm after I asked. "Every day," she whispered. Back at home, things were shifting. Liam had started coming to me more often, for bedtime stories, for homework help, even just to sit by my side while I worked on my laptop. I tried to hide my smile each time, but inside, it felt like spring after a long winter. Jason noticed. One evening, he caught me typing late at the kitchen table. "What are you working on?" he asked casually. I closed the screen. "Nothing, just agency stuff." He raised an eyebrow. "At home," I shrugged. "You said I needed help, so I'm helping myself now." He didn't like that answer, but he didn't press. Not yet. It was Georgia who gave me my first real win. Her third complaint came in the next week, this time from a high-profile client who claimed Georgia had shown up late 3 days in a row and had an inappropriate familiarity with the husband. Jessica was livid. "We can't afford this," she muttered, pacing around the office. She asked me to draft the termination email. I did it without blinking, and when I pressed send, I didn't feel vindicated. I felt validated. Georgia had replaced me once. Now, she was officially replaceable. I used that energy to start laying the groundwork for Mother House. I filed for an LLC online after putting Liam to bed. I made a free website, just a landing page, with a name and a promise. By Mothers for Mothers. I created a Gmail address, a quiet little inbox just for me. Every day, one more woman replied to my emails. One more mother asked what I was building. Some of them cried. Some of them said they'd been praying for something like this. All of them said yes. A few weeks later, I got a call on my personal number. It was Carmen. "I have a family," she whispered. I froze. "You found a client?" She nodded through the phone. "A friend of mine works with a mom in my neighborhood. She's unhappy with her agency nanny. Wants someone warmer, more consistent." My heart jumped. "Did you give her your name?" I gave her our name, Mother House. It happened faster than I expected. Carmen started working for that family. Then she referred another mom, and another. Word spread in whispers and side texts. No official marketing, just trust. I didn't take a dime yet. I wasn't ready for that, but I started drafting contracts, outlines for hourly rates, training guides based on real-life experience instead of outdated theories. We weren't flashy, but we were real. Then Jason found out. He came into the living room one night holding a printout. "My website. The Mother House landing page. Is this you?" he asked. Like I'd robbed a bank. I set down my tea. "Yes." He stared at me. "You started your own agency?" "I'm building something that actually helps people." He scoffed. "This is ridiculous. You're not even trained in childcare management." I stood up slowly. "I raised our son, while you stood by and let someone else move in." His jaw clenched. "So this is revenge?" "No," I said calmly. "This is me doing something with all the experience I was told didn't matter." He didn't have a comeback. The next day, he moved into the guest room. We didn't fight. We didn't scream. But something broke. I felt free. Not because I didn't care anymore, but because I finally believed in me more than I feared being unloved. That weekend, I met with 5 nannies in the back room of a church Carmen rented by the hour. We sat in a circle, sipping bad coffee and talking about the job, the real job, the heartbreak of goodbyes, the constant sacrifice, the low pay, the disrespect. And we talked about change, about what it would mean to work for someone who saw them, who had been them. I looked around at these women, all different ages, races, stories, and I felt tears prick at my eyes. "We're going to build something," I told them. One of them whispered, "We already are." They say the biggest shift happens quietly, like a tide pulling out before a wave. That was how it started. No big billboard, no press release, just a slow, steady whisper. One mom told another mom, that mom told a coworker, and suddenly, Mother House was getting 2 or 3 emails a day from families wanting someone more involved, more nurturing, less transactional. And the weirdest part, most of them didn't even know who I was, they just knew what we stood for, and that somehow was enough. I was still working part-time at ClearNest. I knew I couldn't keep both going forever, but until I could afford to go all in, I needed to keep my eyes on the inside. I watched their systems, how they handled new client intake, where they messed up, every misstep they made, I learned from. Jessica was stressed more often now. "We've had 3 families cancel in the past week," she muttered one morning. I pretended to be surprised. "That's odd," I said, typing calmly at my desk. She sighed. "They didn't say much, just said they were trying a different model." Inside, my heart flipped. They were talking about us. By month 3, we had 8 active nannies under the Mother House name. We weren't charging big placement fees like the traditional agencies. Instead, we gave the nannies fair pay directly and took a small monthly service fee from family. The work was steadier. The caregivers felt respected. The families didn't feel like they were hiring robots. Everyone was happier, except Jessica. And Jason. One night, Jason cornered me in the hallway. "You're stealing clients," he said. "From your job. That's illegal." I didn't flinch. "I never stole anyone," I said. "They left on their own. I just gave them a better place to land." His nostrils flared. "You think this is impressive? Running some underground nanny cult out of coffee shops and church basements?" "No," I replied, voice steady. "I think it's progress." He looked like he wanted to yell, but he didn't. Instead, he walked away. That was the last real conversation we had before he filed for separation. The day the email came, I was standing in line at a grocery store. Subject line: "Inquiry for executive placement, large estate household." I opened it, expecting spam, but it was a real client, a wealthy family relocating from Connecticut to our town. They were looking for full-time live-in childcare, and they'd heard of us through an associate's wife. They didn't ask for resumes. They asked for heart. They wanted someone who understood children, who believed in connection and discipline, in warmth and structure. They wanted what we offered, and they were willing to pay. I brought the offer to my nannies during our next meeting. "I'm not going to lie," I said. "This is big, bigger than anything we've done, full-time. Benefits, high expectations. If this goes well, we'll be on the map." Carmen leaned forward. "Who do you want to send?" Everyone turned toward me. I hadn't expected that question, but I knew the answer the moment I heard it. "Me," I said. I hadn't worked directly with a child since Liam was 3, but I needed this, not just for the agency, but for myself, to prove that I still had it, that I wasn't too emotional, that I wasn't past my prime or too sensitive, or too soft, that being a mother didn't make me less of a professional. It made me more. The interview was at a high-rise apartment, overlooking the river. The mother, Melanie, was in her 30s, warm and polished, but clearly exhausted. Her husband barely looked up from his laptop while we spoke. Their son, Ezra, was 5. Shy, curious eyes, sat close to his mom the whole time. I didn't come with a pitch, I came with questions. What calms him when he's scared? Does he like to be held when he cries or given space? Does he draw pictures when he's upset? Or does he stay quiet? Melanie blinked twice before answering. I don't think anyone had ever asked her that. By the end of the meeting, she was crying softly. "You're not like the others," she said. "I know," I whispered. They hired me the next morning. For the first 2 weeks, I lived in their guest room. I helped Ezra settle into his new school. I made routines, brought art supplies, packed notes in his lunchbox. By the third week, he was calling me Mads, not nanny, not helper. Just me. Jessica called while I was cooking dinner one night. "Madeline," she said tightly, "are you working for a competing agency?" I stirred the soup. "I'm working for a family that values what I do. So that's a yes?" "It's not a conflict," I said calmly. "I resigned last week. Didn't you get the email?" There was silence. Then she hung up. The next morning, an email blast went out to several families and caregivers across the county warning against a rogue nanny service that wasn't licensed. It didn't name us directly, but it didn't have to. I printed it, smiled, and pinned it on my bedroom corkboard, like a trophy. Because the truth is, once they start to notice you, they can't stop. Every week, more emails rolled in, not just from families but from women. So many women. I was told I wasn't experienced enough to care for kids. I aged out of another agency. My last boss said I was too emotional with the baby. I thought maybe this work just wasn't for people like me, and to each one, I replied, "It is. We've been waiting for you." I came home for the first time in weeks on a Sunday afternoon. Jason was gone. He'd taken his clothes, his toothbrush, and half the blender. But Liam was there. He ran to me at the door. "Mom, I drew something for you." It was a picture of us holding hands under a big purple roof. He had written Mother House in shaky letters across the top. I cried. I didn't even try to hide it, because that picture, it was proof. They replaced me once. But now, I was building the house. It starts with a knock on the door. I'm back at the River Street apartment. Ezra's playing quietly in the other room, and I'm cleaning up snack dishes when I hear it. Sharp, impatient. I open it to find a woman in a dark blazer, clipboard in hand. "Madeline Shaw?" "Yes. I'm with the State Office of Family Services. We received a complaint about an unlicensed childcare business operating under your name. I need to ask you some questions." My stomach drops. I don't panic, not visibly, but inside it feels like the floor shifts. I knew this might happen. I knew someone. Probably Jessica would eventually try to burn me down the moment she realized I wasn't just playing house. Still, it stings. I step aside and let the woman in. I make tea. I answer every question clearly, calmly. "Yes, Mother House is registered as an LLC. We're a caregiver matching service. Our nannies are independent contractors, all background checked. No, I do not personally employ them. We provide resources, training, and referrals. That's it." She writes everything down. Her face doesn't tell me much. She thanks me and leaves, but the knot in my chest stays. That night, I sit in bed with my laptop, combing through every policy on small business licensing, childcare laws, caregiver compliance, liability coverage. For hours. I don't sleep. I just plan. I draft contracts, real ones. I look into lawyer referrals. I start building out a training module. I budget for an accountant. If they want this to be official, I'll make it ironclad. The next day, I gather the Mother House crew in the back of a coffee shop. We sit in a tight circle, some sipping lattes, others bouncing toddlers in lap. "I need you all to know," I say. "We're about to grow up as a business. That means more paperwork, more rules, more eyes on us. But it also means we're not hiding anymore." One of the nannies, a 27-year-old named Bree, speaks up. "I'd rather follow 10 rules with you than work for someone who doesn't even ask how I'm doing." The others nod. We're not just workers anymore. We're a movement. But word travels fast. Within a week, Jessica's agency has posted a blog article that's basically a thinly veiled smear campaign. The dangers of informal care networks. They never name us directly, but they do everything else. They warn about grooves started by people with no formal childcare degrees, about emotion-led services that ignore liability, about well-meaning women who overstep. Every sentence drips with judgment and fear, because if we weren't a threat, she wouldn't have written a word. Still, I get scared again when I receive another letter, this time a cease and desist from Clearnest's legal counsel. They accuse me of client poaching, of soliciting talent under false pretenses, of slanderous implications regarding the quality of their care. I read the letter 3 times before setting it down, then I laugh. Because I remember the day I signed my non-disclosure agreement at Clearnest. I didn't use a single name from that client list. Every family who came to us, they came on their own, and that's what terrifies Jessica. She can't stop what's already moving. Still, I consult a lawyer. I show her everything. The contracts, the emails, the website, the letter. She reads in silence for a while. Then she looks at me with a smile. "You're not in trouble," she says. "You're in demand." I exhale for the first time in days, and I decide then and there. No more whispering. It's time to be loud. That weekend, I post our first official Mother House video. It's nothing flashy, just me, sitting in a living room chair, hands folded, speaking straight to camera. My name is Madeline Shaw. I'm a mother, a former agency worker, and the founder of Mother House, a support network built for caregivers by caregivers. I speak from the heart. I talk about what it felt like to be replaced, to be called too emotional, to be told I didn't belong in my own child's life. And then I talk about them. The women who raised generations without recognition. The babysitters turned teachers. The nannies turned therapists. The grandmothers and aunts and neighbors who kept homes from falling apart. I end with this. They called us unqualified. They called us untrained. But we've been doing this forever, and now we're taking the lead. The video goes semi-viral. Not millions of views, but thousands. Enough to flood our inbox with messages. Some from families who want to join. Some from caregivers looking for a home. But others from former coworkers. From moms I hadn't spoken to in years. From strangers who said, This is what I've been waiting for." And one email in particular stands out. Subject: "We've met before." It's from a woman named Emily. She says she saw my video and realized I was the woman who held her son once, years ago, during an agency trial visit, when he wouldn't stop crying. "I remember thinking you were too soft," she writes. "Now I realize you were the only one actually listening." She wants to hire through Mother House. I cry at my kitchen table reading her email. Because this is bigger than revenge. This is redemption. One afternoon, I take Liam out for ice cream. He's sitting on a bench, swinging his legs, cone dripping down his wrist. When he looks up at me and asks, "Why don't you work at the old place anymore?" I smile gently. Because I decided to build my own place, one where people are treated better. He nods like it makes perfect sense, and then says, "I want to work with you one day." That almost breaks me. I don't say anything. I just hand him a napkin and wipe his cheek. Because this is what I'm really building it for. You never expect the person who turns on you to be the one who called you brave. But life doesn't wait for you to brace yourself. It just hits. And I didn't see it coming. Not from her. It had been 4 months since Mother House really started gaining traction. We had over 30 families, 22 active caregivers, and 5 more in training. Our YouTube video was getting shared in local mom groups. I even got a call from a reporter wanting to feature us for a Women in Business segment. And all the while, I kept things grounded: systems, check-ins, support calls. But as things grew, I needed help. Real help. Someone who understood the mission and the back-end mess. That's when I turned to Claire. Claire had been one of my first hires. She wasn't a nanny. She'd worked at a front desk of a pediatric clinic for 7 years. She understood logistics, intake, billing, follow-up call. She helped me build the internal scheduling board. She even came up with the referral system that let nannies earn bonuses for bringing in new talent. And for months, she'd been nothing but loyal, reliable, smart. "I'm so proud of you," she told me once after a team meeting. "You're doing something really rare, Madeline." I believed her. I trusted her. Which is why what happened next felt like a knife in the spine. It started small. A few caregivers dropping out last minute, citing better off. Then a couple of families canceled, apologizing and saying they were trying a different provider. That happens in this business. But when it happened 5 times in 2 weeks, I got suspicious. I called one of the families, the Martins. They'd been with us from the beginning. "Hey, Miss Martin," I said gently. "Just following up. I heard you were transitioning to another service?" She hesitated. I hope you're not mad. Claire told us you were stepping back, that someone else would be running things. She said she had a new team forming, more focused, less spread out." I felt my chest tighten. Claire told them what? I called Bree next, one of our longest-standing caregivers. She offered me a position with a private list. Bree said she and a few others were starting something smaller. Honestly, I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to leave you, but it sounded stable. I thanked her for being honest. Then I sat in my car, and I shook. Claire didn't steal my passwords. She didn't take my bank account. She didn't need to. She took something more powerful: trust. She used the very thing I'd created, the platform, the brand, the belief, and turned it into her ladder out. She called it Harbor Care, a clean, soft name, the kind of name people want to believe in. And the worst part, she used my language: heart-centered placement, family-forward caregiving, emotional intelligence training, word for word things I'd written in late nights, in journals, in team emails, now on her website. I tried to reach out. No reply. She blocked me. She even removed herself from the group chats before I had the chance to ask why. I cried for 2 days. Not because I lost clients, but because I lost someone I believed in. But something changed on day 3. I got a voicemail from Bree. "Hey, Madeline. I just wanted to say I made a mistake. I thought Claire's thing was about the mission. But it's not. It's about money. It's about image. She's cherry-picking families that look good on paper and cutting ties with the ones that need us most. I'm out, and I'm coming back, if you'll have me." That's when I realized something. You can imitate words, but you can't fake heart. The betrayal hurt, but it also clarified everything. Mother House had never been about being the biggest. It was about showing up when no one else would. So I doubled down, not with marketing, with meaning. I posted a video update. "Hi, it's Madeline again. You may have seen some changes recently. That's okay. That's part of growing. But I want to be clear about something. Mother House isn't just a brand. It's a promise. To the single moms, the working dads, the tired grandparents, the caretakers who feel invisible. We're not here to look perfect. We're here to show up." That video got more views than the first. Then something incredible happened. 2 local nonprofits reached out. One ran a program for refugee families who needed flexible, affordable childcare while they searched for work. The other worked with young, low-income moms trying to finish school. They didn't want perfection. They wanted partnership. They wanted us. I sat down with my team. "I know this won't make us rich," I said, "but it will make us real. We'll use our profits to sponsor 10 families through both programs, free of charge. If that's okay with you." Everyone nodded. Some cried. No one hesitated. Later that week, Liam helped me carry a box of flyers out to the car. "Are we going to work?" he asked. I smiled. "No, bud. We're going to build." He grinned. "Can I be the boss today?" I laughed. "You already are." Sometimes I still think about Claire. I wonder if she felt justified, if she convinced herself I wouldn't mind, or worse, that I deserved it for growing too fast, for trusting too openly. But I don't hate her. I thank her, because she reminded me of what I'm protecting. This agency, this movement, is not built on convenience. It's built on care, real care, and no one can steal that from me. I'm standing backstage in a navy blue wrap dress that I almost didn't buy. It's the first time I've worn something that wasn't practical since Ezra was born. The first time I've done my hair in curls. The first time I've worn heels in over 3 years. My palms are sweaty, but my heart is steady. This is it. The National Caregivers Collective invited me to speak at their regional summit in Chicago. Someone saw our second video online, the one where I talked about why care is activism. They said it gave them goosebumps. They said I should be on the main stage. And now, I'm 5 seconds from walking into the spotlight. I take a breath. The lights hit me. And I begin. I wasn't supposed to be here, I say into the mic. Not just on this stage, but in this work. I was supposed to be a mom, quietly, obediently, gratefully. The audience is silent, eyes fixed. But when I cried too easily, they called me unstable. When I asked to stay with my son, they said I was too much. And when I pushed back, they brought in a nanny. A few people shift in their seats. I was replaced in my own home, not because I wasn't capable, but because I wasn't convenient. I pause, and I turned that heartbreak into a business. I tell them everything. About Claire's betrayal, about the smears from my old agency, about the families we served who had nowhere else to go. I speak without notes, from memory and scars. And when I finally say, Mother House is now supporting 62 caregivers and 91 families across 3 cities, I hear clapping. When I add, and we've started 2 scholarship partnerships for young mothers, they stand up. By the time I finish, I'm trembling. But it's not nerves, it's release. The dam I've held up since the day Jessica handed Ezra to someone else, it's finally broken. After the panel, I sit alone at a corner table sipping coffee. People keep coming up, shaking my hand, offering hugs, thanking me for saying what they never could. One older woman, silver hair in a bun, wearing a crisp white blouse, holds my hand for a full 10 seconds and says, I wish someone like you had been around when I was raising mine. I nearly cry again, but I smile instead. Now I'm here, I whisper. When I return home, Liam greets me at the door like I've been away for years. He jumps into my arms yelling, Mommy, Mommy, you're famous. I laugh. He holds up his tablet to show me a news article. Local mom builds caregiving empire from living room desk. Beneath the headline is a photo of me on stage, hand over heart. He grins like he's just won something. Can I be in your next video? You can star in it, I tell him. The next few weeks are a blur. We're flooded with inquiries, not just families, caregivers, so many women tired of being treated like help instead of professionals. Women who want community, not competition. Grandmas, students, even former social workers. One application sticks out. Jessica Monroe. Yes, that Jessica, my ex-boss. She sent in a form under a fake name, but the email and phone number gave it away. I almost deleted it, almost ignored it, but something in me said, no. So I invited her to a coffee shop. Neutral ground. She arrives 10 minutes early. Same perfect hair, same overly expensive bag. We exchange polite greetings. Sit. She says nothing for a while. Then finally, I wanted to see if you'd let me start over. I've had a difficult year. I stare at her, expression neutral. She continues. I thought I could keep doing it the old way. Keep clients happy, keep my staff on rotation, but I've lost half my team. The families are leaving. Everyone says they want what you built. I blink. She looks up. I guess I came to ask how you did it. I sip my tea. Then I say, I listened to the women no one else listened to. She nods slowly. There's a silence between us, not angry, just real. And then she says, if there's ever space for me, I'd be open. I don't answer. Not because I'm petty, but because I haven't decided. Sometimes power is knowing you can say yes and choosing not to. I don't tell anyone about that meeting. Not because it's a secret, but because the story isn't about her anymore. It's about us. Me, my team, the families. Liam. A month later, we sign a lease on our first official office space. It's not fancy. Exposed pipes, creaky floors, chipped paint. But it's ours. We paint one wall with handprints. Every caregiver, every kid we've helped. Bright reds, greens, blues, oranges. Liam adds his own in neon yellow. He calls it the Wall of Brave, and I think that's exactly right. The last scene of this chapter, I'm sitting at my desk, papers spread everywhere, Sun pouring in through the window. My silver locket rests on the keyboard. Liam is sprawled out on a beanbag beside me, drawing robot. A new caregiver named Trina walks in for orientation, her toddler balanced on one hip, diaper bag hanging off the other. She looks nervous. I smile wide. You're exactly where you belong, I tell her. And I mean it, because now I make the rules, and no one's ever going to replace me again.